What is up, everybody? Welcome to Otto's Grotto, all things geek and unique, featuring three men in a basement. I am Otto. This is my grotto, and if you're just new to our YouTube channel, I want to let you know that Three Men in a Basement is an organically grown show that we do here out of my grotto, my man cave. I have a guest host, I have a co-host, and I have an executive producer. We're all on Instagram. That's where this really started. I'm Everett Otto on Instagram. Please give me a follow. My executive producer is Bernie1869. That's what he is on. And my co-host is Mr. Roger Levesque on Instagram. So a little bit about me. I've been a collector for over 30 years. I was that kid in the 80s and mid to early 80s that was going to cons with $10, $25 in my pocket, searching for X-Men books, searching for all types of books, trying to get the good deal, haggling, you know, going into these cons with grown men and books coming out of just everywhere. And before, you know, there was cosplay, before there was all these big shows, I was there. So I'm not an expert by any means, but I know a lot about a lot of different things. And if I make a mistake, I apologize. Always feel free to comment, share, like our videos. We're trying to do this daily content. So this is the first book. That's the first series that we're going to do. And this is about Signature series. CBCS, Signature Verification, CGC Signature Series Yellow Labels, and CBCS Yellow Labels also. So I've got about 10 books that I'm going to go over, and I'm going to tell you a little story about each of those books, because as a collector, I think all books should have a story. I'm not an eBay hunter. Listen, let's face it. If I want a book, I want to put it on a credit card, I'll go on eBay and get it, except for huge grails. But I don't want to do that. Patience, right? 35 years I've been doing this. You'll find the book at the condition you want. You'll get it done. Just everything takes time, right? And I think as hobbies, that's what we need to do. Whether you're a comic book collector, comic book reader, comic book investor, or just comic book fan, your collection is your own, and how you grow that is entirely up to you. So I have quite a few signed slabs, which I really never thought I'd be big on, but the fact that I'm actually meeting these guys and stuff like that, and getting the signatures is pretty cool. But unfortunately, I did not meet Adam Hughes when he signed this very iconic Catwoman 51. I wanted to start with an eye grabber, and you can tell why I chose this book, okay? This book is a 9.4. I do not have this book in high grade, or being a 9.8. Haven't had a chance to find one out in the wild. You know, I'm not lucky enough to find it in dollar bins like some people do. But I was able to get this off my buddy, Justin, a.k.a. Nemesis Prime, a.k.a. hashtag the Variant Whore. He actually met Adam Hughes, had this signed, and then he sold it to me for a great price. So I do have this book. You can see that Adam Hughes' signature is very unique. It's just the AH with the exclamation point. Sometimes he does it over Catwoman on specific body parts. This book isn't a variant. It's just a book that is hard to find out in a while. There was a low print run, and it's become a very iconic cover. So this is right here, CBCS Yellow Label, authorized, but it means that there was a CBCS representative there who saw Adam Hughes sign it. And then it went off, came back, 9.4, okay? Great book, something I wanted to get started with. Now, sticking with CBCS, I also have this book. This is Generations 1, Wolverine, an all-new Wolverine, CBCS Pink Label for Signature Verified. What that means is this book was raw and signed by Francisco Mattina, one of the hottest artists out there right now as far as all the stuff that he's drawing. So pick up a lot of his stuff. This was signed, and you pay for CBCS to say whether or not it was his true signature. It was his true signature. The book came back at 9.0. I'm happy about it. Again, it was a gift from a friend of mine. So happy to have this book. So now we have two different types of CBCS labels, yellow label and pink label, all right? Now we're going to get, those are the only two CBCS books that I have in my collection, all right? I apologize, signed in my collection. Now we're going to get down to some really cool books. I just want to let you know that in the future, I plan on doing a 15 to 20 minute segment video, about 15 to 20 segments, about my X-Men 1 to 300 run that I've collected ever since I was a little kid. I do have 1 to 300 all complete, not all slabbed, not all high grade, but a lot of these books I did buy out of dollar bins. A lot of these books I did buy off the rack, especially around like 250-ish, 225, 250-ish. Some of the best runs ever in comics. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of that out every day once I start doing it. So the first book I have is X-Men 56, signed by Neil Adams and Roy Thomas. What you're going to see, though, in this video is I'm not an overly zealous Neil Adams fan. I just happen to have a lot of his stuff signed because I think a lot of his stuff was iconic. And I thought this was very unique because Neil Adams only did 7 or 8 issues in the X-Men run in the mid-50s. And Roy Thomas was there too, so I was able to meet both of them at Terrificon last year. Neil's autograph is pricey, but because he didn't do that many X-Men books, and I thought this was a good book, I bought this raw. Dealer said it was about a 7.5, and he was right. Did have it pressed. I came back right on the nose at a 7.5. Not a very expensive book, but the fact that I did meet both of them, and as an X-Men fan, I thought this was a very iconic book. We all know this cover. It's been swiped a lot of times. X-Men 134, 130. I think it's 134 with Dark Phoenix and stuff like that. So just a very cool cover. Next book is another Roy Thomas book. And I'm a huge fan of Submariner. And I'm also a huge fan of Tiger Shark. I think he's a great villain. So I actually picked this up from my good friend KP Henderson. He was dead on the nails when he said it'd come back around an 8.0, and it did. I had Roy Thomas sign it. Roy's got a nice, clean signature. Not an expensive book, not a valuable book to my collection, but just an iconic cover that I really like at a relatively decent grade. I like books anywhere from a 7.5, 8.0, depending on stuff like that. And with the NATO yellow label, I'm very happy with this book because it prints very well. The yellows look great. Actually, the contrast between the yellow label and the yellow labels, the yellow coloring in here is really cool. So I'm happy to have this book in my collection. Now, we're going to go to a cover swipe of one of my favorite Batman covers. All right. So I was very lucky when this book came out, Aquaman 49. Neil Adams, cover swipe. And we all know the cover swipe to that. That's 251, the return of the Silver Age Joker. I absolutely love this cover. I think it's fantastic. You know, Batman was the ace. Aquaman's the king. Black Manta's the Joker. Bought it raw, submitted it myself, had it signed by Neil, came back in 9.8. Pairs up very well with my Batman 251, which is a 5.0, not incredibly a high grade, but a book that I did buy raw, had pressed, had Neil sign it. And other than the fact that they're not matching grades, they look really cool together, and I really like that, okay? Cover swipes are good. Ideally, I would like them both in the same grade, but it's not going to happen. So I'm happy that I have both of these books. They look great in my Batman display. I have a great Batman display by the Classy Collector on Instagram. Please give him a follow. He does custom frames. He does custom cabinets for comics. He's just a great guy to follow. So I think these are really, really cool. So 2 iconic Neil Adams cover, 1 swipe, 1 original, both signed by Neil. So very happy about that. Now, this book is the biggest controversial book that I've had in the past, I don't know, year, because I've known about Terrificon coming up this weekend, August 17th, 18th, and 19th at Mohegan Sun. I did not have this book signed myself. I bought this from a good friend of mine at a great price. Iron Man 55, double signed by Jim Starlin and Stan Lee. All right. A lot of you know that Jim Starlin and CGC don't have a good relationship anymore. I think at one point he said he wasn't going to do them. I don't know if he's acquiesced on that. But this book is double signed 8.5. Now, Roy Thomas was the editor at the time. For those of you who don't know, Stan was not a fan of Jim Starlin introducing Thanos, okay? He did not like it. He didn't like the original scripts. Roy loved it. Roy went to Starlin and said, you need to buff him up, get him a little bit more beefy, give him a helmet, give him some gloves. Stan believed in Roy. Roy believed in Starlin. Roy went back with the drafts, said, okay, let's do it. So this Iron Man 55 actually has some first appearances of Drax, first appearance of Star Fox, and first appearance of Thanos. Now, here's where it gets fun. At Terrificon, I am going to have Roy Thomas sign this. Yes, I'm going to crack it. I'm going to have it resubmitted. I hope to God it comes back in 8.5. If it comes back a half a point lower, it still is triple signed. I'm a collector as much as I am. I'm not really a flipper of my books, so I'll probably never never sell this book. And I'd actually like to meet Joe Sinnott. And for you guys who don't know, Joe Sinnott is one of the oldest Marvel bullpen people left, and he has a really, really classy signature. I'd love to get it somewhere on this book. Maybe get it quad signed. So find out what happens in the next 6 to 8 weeks, maybe when it comes back. So I hope the people from New York Signatures are good to this book when they crack it open. Don't know where I'm going to have Roy sign it just yet. Maybe somewhere on the Iron Man logo, maybe somewhere on the bottom. But I think that's going to look really, really cool, all right? So Iron Man 55, first Thanos. Hope to have it triple signed at an 8.5. Okay. Now we are going to get to one of my grails, and this is a personal grail because it's not really an expensive book, but I did the legwork to get this book triple signed, and that is again the great part of being a collector, because you do the legwork, you stand in the lines, you talk to the people, you meet the artists, and this was the only time that I met Stan Lee. This is a very, very iconic cover, and it's really clean and it's really old, and I'm happy that it came back in 9.0. This is Captain America 111. We all know this cover, right? If you're a Captain America fan or just any type of Jim Steranko fan. So I will tell you what happened with this book and how it came back. Providence Comic-Con 2 years ago, I went with some of my 3 Men in the Basement brothers, and I'm a huge Steranko fan. I love talking to Jim Steranko. He loves to talk to me about weightlifting and stuff like that, where I just want to talk about comic books. But Jim Steranko is the keeper of the court when it comes to conversating, and he's a great conversationist. He's a very classy guy. He's got a great handshake, and he's got a fantastic signature. So when I went to get this signed, I wanted to make sure that Jim was the first one to sign it because he was actually the artist. Great guy. I've got lots of stuff signed by him. Did his signature perfectly. Then I went over to Joe Sinnott. And Joe Sinnott, like I said, is much older in age than Jim Steranko. But Joe signed it right here. Really, really awesome sig. Looks fantastic. Really happy with that. Then down here, I have Stan's signature. Not one of Stan's best signatures. He could have placed it a little bit better for me, but hey, we were at Providence. I waited in line almost 3.5 hours. I shook his hand. I made it a point to talk to him, tell him my name, tell him thank you for everything he's done, and he gave me a great signature. So now I've got a triple signed book, Captain America 111. Don't know if there's even one of these on the census, CGC census. Will I ever sell this book? Absolutely not. I'm hoping it becomes a family heirloom. I only have 2 Stan Lee signatures, especially now that he's only doing private signings. You know, it's going to be tough to get. You know, and his signature varies. Sometimes you get a clean signature. Sometimes you get a not so clean signature. So on my Iron Man 55, Stan's signature is very, very clean. Here, I think because of the pen he was using and the placement of it, it's a little crowded, but it is still a Stan signature. It still is a CGC signature series. I also did get the signature series Stan Lee label, which I thought was pretty cool. So that wraps up my little talk about CBCS, CGC, signature series, signature verification. Stay tuned to what we have going on in 3 Men in the Basement, Otto's Grotto. We're actually going to be at Terrificon next weekend, and hopefully Friday I'll be able to do a live broadcast with some of the IG community. So please like my video, share my video, do everything you can. Give us a follow because I really love comics. I really love this hobby. I really love to communicate with you guys. So comment, ask me questions. If I made a mistake, tell me. You know, I don't know everything. I know less than nothing sometimes, but I do love comic books. So I am Otto. This is my grotto. Thank you for watching, and I'm signing out.